Glenn,
Yes.
it is time to talk about how to agree to disagree with our friends, with family members, our loved ones, all of the above, especially online.
Yeah, this is a big one because it could get really personal real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like we live in this time right now where it's just not okay to have different political beliefs, different, religious beliefs, different identities, whatever it might be. It's not okay. And so more and more I see people cutting off their friends and their family members over really silly things.
Just because they're offended
Yeah.
for having different opinions, which is ridiculous.
So we're going to talk about how to agree to disagree. Give some solid tips why this is happening. Let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Welcome to 12-Week Relationships. This is your place for better relationships in weeks, not years, starting with the relationship you have with yourself, working out to all the relationships in your life. My name is Pye.
I'm Dr. Glen.
All right, Dr. Glenn. So what is going on, dude? Not like last week. I mean, like in general, from like a societal standpoint. Over the past 18 months, since COVID began, I have had so many arguments with friends about things that truly don't matter. And I would say, like, this really doesn't matter. I'm good. It's okay. It's okay for us to disagree on this. And I'd have friends be like, no, it's not okay. And then you see it all over online. How many people have cut each other off over the past 18 months because of differing, approaches to vaccinations or just differing thoughts about it, even asking questions on it, or political beliefs, red versus blue, or religious beliefs. We're going to get into all that too. But what is happening?
I mean, it's just an unhealthiness going on. And then people are so attached to their own opinions, and opinions do change. And then they believe that it's everything, like it reflects who they are. And any disagreement is reflective of you insulting and hurting them.
I mean, have you noticed more of this lately? Is it just me?
No,
or is this like
it's going on. Like, it's just, especially online, like any disagreements can lead to like hostility, just like that.
It feels like it's getting worse, right?
Oh, it's getting way worse. Like, I was on an MMA blog, and then people talking about a specific fighter, and they're like, if you don't like this fighter, then F you. I hate you.
Well, who was it though? Let's be honest. Who was the fighter?
Chimaev. Hamza Chimaev.
You gotta like
that dude's
Chimaev.
like, he's like awesome, right?
Chimaev's amazing.
That
if
guy-
you don't like him, yeah, F you. I would agree.
You were that person, right?
I was that guy that
Yeah.
wrote that comment. I do really like him though. But yeah, it's wild. And we're going to get into some of the real world kind of conversations that we're seeing and like what's going on. But ultimately, I think the first step in kind of understanding how to agree to disagree, how do we maintain healthy relationships without sharing all of the same, beliefs and opinions and whatnot. I think it comes down to understanding first that we're fighting to defend an idea. And usually we fight to defend the idea because of some sort of fear, weakness, or perhaps trauma. Right?
No, definitely. And then basically you're pigeonholing yourself you're forcing yourself into this limited identity based on a very limited opinion usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just ridiculous.
And I'm going to give an example of this. Okay. So this is actually a conversation that unfolded today. Online, but we posted the episode, Should You Date Within Your Religion? Right now, within that episode, I think this was episode 12. What number was that, Anthony? I think it was episode 12 or 13.
12, I think.
12. Okay. So within this episode, we talk about, okay, there can be benefits to dating within your religion, but the oversimplification of, yes, you should date within your religion, this doesn't work. And we talked about the statistics back this up, right? The statistics say that marrying within your religion is no more likely to make your marriage succeed than outside of your religion. So we got into the idea of like, look, there can be a lot of positive things that can happen from dating within your religion, so long as you understand yourself, your values, your identity, and you go beyond to understand what you're actually looking for.
Yeah, I don't think it was insulting religion in any way or form.
No.
Yeah, no. It was just a discussion, but we weren't bagging on religion at all.
I might bag on religion a little bit. I mean, like, let's be.
Okay, we might do a little bit. But.
No, if you're religious, not religious, come here. Like, we're not trying to do any like bagging or dissuading you from what you believe or whatnot. But it is a genuine question. Should you date within your religion? And the caption, as well as the episode, really goes into understanding the nuances of this. Now, as soon as I posted it, someone commented and basically goes into like, you know, Pye, I understand you're having a hard time, that you feel like people have lied to you, that your marriage has failed, but be careful what you say. God will judge you. Don't lead people astray. And they go on to say, like, this is a member of the church. And I love it when people say member of the church, because I feel like it's only Mormons that talk about that way. Because I'm like, dude, there's many churches. And nobody knows which church you're talking about when you say a member of the church. But anyway, this is someone
it's the exclusive one.
Yeah, she is very actively Mormon, and I am not active, as the parlance goes, right? Not active means I no longer go to church. So she goes that this is a non-active member that's trying to dissuade others from believing. And I was like, man, you missed it all. And she goes, I choose not to listen to anything that comes from someone who doesn't believe in God. So I wrote this other post that said, basically, we live in this time where, you know, you can voice your opinions, you can, you know, accuse, you can blame, you can do whatever you want, say whatever you want. And we do it without even understanding the actual topic, without even being informed on something. And we're trained to do this. And so this person has essentially cut me off for what she thinks is an episode where you and I basically slander religion.
Which she didn't listen to.
No.
Yeah, so she had her opinion and she just took that snippet. It wasn't even a snippet, it's just a sign, like, this is the episode that we're talking about.
Should you date within your religion?
And then it became like, you are going against God and you're going to burn in hell. But I'm doing this because I love you.
Yeah. She later said so. She said,
I'm doing this out of love.
And she said, she's praying for me. And I said, you know, I appreciate that. And I'm praying for you too.
But I mean, that brings up the whole point about opinions. Like, her whole identity is based off of that. And she's acting, or at least it seems like she's trying to act like this is the ultimate truth. But it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel loving. It doesn't feel comfortable.
No.
It feels really awkward.
And to me, I can taste nothing but fear in her words. Like, I do believe in God, and I do have my own spiritual beliefs. Those beliefs are solid enough that I don't need you or anybody else to believe what I believe, right?
Agreed.
I have my own sets of beliefs. So when someone does this, when they say these types of words, whether it's in person or online, it doesn't matter. I've encountered so many experiences. What I see, what I hear, what I taste in those words is fear. They are whatever they believe of me, like maybe it's that I don't believe, but that choice, that decision hurts them because it affects their belief. And if I do believe, it strengthens their decision. And what we're really coming back to is that it's a form of like tribalism, right? Like we instinctually want to be right. We want to know that we're right. And, you know, if I don't know that I'm right, then I'm going to look at the people around me to see if I can justify my decisions off theirs.
Yeah,
and if I can't, I'm going to cut them off.
But ultimately, it's about her trying to convince herself that what she believes is actually true.
Correct.
And then if you take it at face value, her words are very absolute and convincing. But if you look at it in totality, internally, and the feel of it, it just feels not convincing at all. Because when you really know something to be true, you don't act that way. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel awkward. Like, you just know.
And when you're talking about it, you don't talk about it from a standpoint of defensiveness, right? You're not, when someone does ask you, like, you know, why do you believe God exists? You're not going to respond back to them and be like, just look around you and see everything. That's how I know. You're going to say, well, you know, I don't know. I mean, we all just believe, right? This is a belief, and it's a belief that helps me. That's the difference in someone that's secure in something versus someone that's insecure in something. But this was an example on a religious context, right? Let me take this to a different conversation. I'm going to provide you another narrative.
Do it.
Another example, 2 friends. One friend goes to the other. And this is during the debates and Biden-Harris versus Trump.
Who was the other guy?
No, nobody even knows the other guy. It's only Trump. Everyone just talks Trump. But there was another guy. Anthony?
The vice president?
Yes.
Pence?
Pence. There you go. Pence.
Trump Pence. See, that's how fixated everybody was on Trump that we even forgot Pence existed. He didn't exist. Anyway, these two friends, right? One friend is just vehemently about Biden Harris. The other friend comes to her and says, hey, I don't necessarily I don't like Trump, but I also don't really like Biden Harris, and I don't know which of these is going to do a better job. And the other friend jumps down the guy's throat. How can you not vote for Biden Harris? I mean, just the fact that, she's a black woman, just the fact that it's not Trump. We have to get Trump out of the office. He's doing so much damage, all this kind of stuff, right? And the other person going, but Kamala Harris has done some pretty shady things too. And Biden's old and doesn't really think right. You can see it. He's too old. And I get it that Trump has done some, a lot of negative things, but there's also been some positive things, economically and certain things that he's doing. But I get it. He doesn't look presidential. He doesn't act presidential. But tell me your opinion. The other friend goes, no. You should be informed on this. And the fact that you're asking this question is a problem. What do you say to that?
I mean, honestly, at that point, if they're basically giving you an ultimatum, there is no discussion. There's no agree to disagree. And it's tribalism, like you said. You have to take a side. If you don't take their side, then they're basically going to cut you off as a friend, which is ridiculous. That's just a ridiculous predicament to be in. And then on the flip side, I had a person that was a Trump supporter, and then they asked me who I was going to vote for, and I told them, I was not going to vote for him. And then they said that you're going against God because he's the chosen one, right? So I cannot befriend you anymore.
If God chose Trump, or frankly, any of our politicians.
No, they cited the Bible. And then I forgot who the person was, but they were a bad person that converted. And then the person literally looked in my face and said, I can't befriend you anymore. So I was, all right, man.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. So just based off of politics and beliefs, it was that absolute for that person, or they were acting absolute that they, okay, we can't exist anymore as friends.
But that's exactly where we kind of go back to, right? For the person that is saying just the fact that you're asking this question is a problem. That to me is once again a sign of a very insecure person and position, because the questioning of an idea is enough to get them angry, to get them upset, to get them to react.
No, I agree. And then on the flip side, going back to that person, if they really believed in God and they knew that was a truth, they could put that aside and be a little bit more understanding. If you know something to be true, there's an understanding that comes into play, and there wasn't. Mm-mm. It was just oh, that's it with you. I'm done.
Yeah.
We can't have any discussion. You either follow this or that's it.
Yeah. And along these sensitive issues, which now there are so many. I mean, when was science a sensitive issue ever? But now it is.
No, it's true.
The idea of vaccination is now incredibly polarizing.
Yes.
And it's wild because, frankly, you look at this conversation of vaccination, right? There are two very legitimate conversations going on. What are the risks of vaccination versus what is the risk of being unvaccinated? Both speaking for adults, there's healthy adults, at-risk adults, and then for healthy children and at-risk children. These should be different versions of this conversation, and everything should be backed by statistics, right? And science and data and support. But that's not how the conversations are going. Conversations are, if you're not doing this, you're bad. And if you are doing this, I can't talk to you. And
yeah, it's getting too personal.
Extremely personal.
Yeah. All identities are based off of those opinions.
People are,
it's tribalism at its best.
But it's become so much worse. It's more powerful tribalism because now you've got this virtual world, the online world, our social media atmosphere where people are then taking these beliefs and using it as part of their identity, whether it's a profile picture, whether it's a, posting their vaccination card, whether it's now like, this is who I am.
Which is really, really scary, right?
Terrifying.
Because opinions can change at any moment. And then if you're going to be tied to this identity, that means you have to be tied to it forever.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Well, that's kind of our second point, which
Yeah.
is your identity has to be more than, it is more than your beliefs and your opinions.
An opinion should change because you're growing and you're understanding things in life. So the way you view the world is always changing. That's a healthy thing.
Yeah.
Instead of just constantly staying the same.
It was always interesting to me. See, I spent probably close to 20 years being Mormon. And I came from a background where my family's Muslim, right? I studied multiple religions before joining the Mormon church. And still a large part of why I wanted to join the Mormon church was because I wanted to kind of fit into the environment. But I also did recognize that there was a lot of positive things to it. But my belief and my experience in the church, in the Mormon church, didn't have to do anything with I didn't need to believe that it was all historically accurate. I didn't need to tie this to my identity and say, this is who I am and it's my way or the highway. None of those things. And so when I made the decision, 5 or so years ago to leave the church, to stop going, it was, this is not something that I need anymore. This is not something that, it's benefiting me anymore at this time in my life. But I didn't look back on the 20 years and go, why did I ever do that? What was I thinking? No. I had a lot of positive experiences. I had negative experiences as well. It was all things that I needed for my personal growth and development. But the people that I know that so closely tied their identity to their belief, when those beliefs changed, they became angry to the point where now all they want to do is just tear down the religion, tear down all religions, hate God, hate all of this kind of stuff. And it's because from their perspective, they were lied to. They were told, they were sold a lie that they full on believed in. And then they come to a place where they go, holy crap, I was brainwashed and now I'm pissed.
No, absolutely. I mean, when just personally, in terms of when I was in the church, my only frustration was it didn't feel loving. And the questions I had, it would always get reduced to, this is Satan.
Which church was?
It was a Christian church.
Christian Korean?
Like a Christian Korean church. So then I would just ask questions. And then to me, I just was really curious. I just really wanted to know. But it would just be this fear-driven thing, oh, you're going to burn in hell.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it get reduced to. So simple questions of I think I brought it up before, but they're if you're at the gates of heaven and Jesus is going to ask you, why should you get into heaven? Everyone answers the same answer, saying that because I accept Christ as my savior. My answer, honestly, I would just go there and say, because you know what you created. You know what you created. Why? Yeah. If you're going to be upset with yourself because you already know what I'm going to do, right? Mm-hmm. Or even simple things they gave an analogy Glen, it's like a boat. All the chosen people are on a boat. And if you're on that boat, regardless of what you do in your life, you're going to be in heaven. So then I said, okay, then I guess I'm not on that boat because I don't feel that way. And then they were like, that's Satan. Versus just having a dialogue with me and saying hey, what's going on? And then it came down to, are you willing to make the ultimate sacrifice knowing that if you're wrong, you're going to burn in hell forever, but he loves you unconditionally? And then that's when I was kind of well, to me, you guys have more to lose because you guys believe something. And then if you find out that it's not true, you wasted your whole life, mm-hmm. right? I'm saying, I don't know. And I'll find out when I'm dead. Right. So it just was this weird dynamic. And that's when eventually I just stopped going.
Yeah, that is.
It doesn't mean I don't believe in God, but that's not God to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part of attaching your identity to
Correct.
Any one of these beliefs or opinions, or
and
especially politicians. I mean, why? Why would you ever attach your identity to anything political? These are the best of the best liars and manipulators in the world.
Agreed.
And you and I, we are more than just red or blue. I agree with some democratic beliefs and values. I agree with some conservative beliefs and values on the Republican side. But it's we all live in the, I mean, a typical, a rational, logical human being is going to always live in the middle. Why do we need to identify as one or the other?
Yeah, the only way you would need to take a side is if your life is in danger, right? Tribalism is like you have to survive, so you have to team up with people in order to live. But outside of that, opinions are not life or death.
But they are treated that way.
But they're treated that way as if it is, and that's just wrong.
Well,
right? It's an unevolved way of living.
We're programmed to think that, though. We're programmed over, 300-400 years ago. Differences in beliefs and differences in the way that you do things. It could be life or death. But it's not that way now.
But evolutionarily, right? Like if you look at when we started in the jungle, differences between tiger, human, cat, whatever the case may be, that's for survival purposes. But we've evolved to actually be more nuanced and have like quality of life.
Well, even your religious belief was a survival mechanism, right? Because
before,
you needed the people around you to survive, just to live.
Correct.
And being ostracized because you didn't believe what they did, that was
that could lead to death.
Yeah.
And we've evolved as a society where your opinions no longer lead to death. I mean, at least in this country, which is a luxury that we have. So we don't have to reduce ourselves to this survival, live or die type of mentality.
Correct. And a lot of countries have that privilege. A lot don't, right?
Yeah.
There's still, my family is still in Iran where you don't have that right. How many people live in China where you don't have the right to say what you want, to believe what you want to, if you do, then there can be potential issues. But yes, for those that are in countries that allow freedom of thought and expression, like it's wild to still attach ourselves and our identity to this. And frankly, it's what leads to fundamentalism of any sort, right? Like you have varying degrees of fundamentalism. You have on one side where you're going to hell. Like I'm going to say, and I'm going to go around saying that, if you're gay, if you're this, if you're whatever, you're going to hell. That's one side of fundamentalism that's extreme, but not as extreme as like, going in, shooting up a building or going in and taking a bomb somewhere and blowing people up or doing any form of like terrorist activity. But it's the same spectrum of fundamentalism.
Agreed.
It's attaching your identity to this. This has to be true.
And then on the spectrum, it can just continue to go to this crazier place.
Yeah. It's just a spectrum of fundamentalism.
But it's going back to survival.
Correct.
Life or death when it doesn't need to be, because it's not.
It's not life or death.
Yes.
So, okay. So far, we have to understand that a person that is willing to fight to defend an idea to the point where it's like, it's no longer a conversation or open-ended where they're seeking to understand. That's coming from a place of weakness, a place of fear, a place of personal trauma. And then two, to move beyond the understanding that, our belief, our values, our opinions, we're more than just that. Our identities are more than these things, and those things will evolve. And it's a good thing that they do, right?
But then also personally, like if you're in this absolute space of living, you need to challenge yourself and open yourself up to recognize that this isn't life or death for you either. It's okay to explore and expand and to do your due diligence. Yeah.
It's a scary thing when someone says, I don't listen to anyone who doesn't believe in God, or I don't listen to anyone who's not Catholic. I'm not going to listen to anyone that's not Muslim or Mormon or whatever it is. When you put yourself into that identity and into that belief set, you've closed off your mind to how much good information in the world. I mean, how many scientists, doctors, surgeons, people who are saving lives, people who are developing the next technology that's going to help, how many of them don't believe what you believe in terms of religion?
No, of course. And then even just going back to the person that wrote in, I would have more respect for that person if they were like, look, this is what I believe, but I listen to your podcast and I get some of your points, but these are things that I struggle with. That is more absolute in terms of than what was offered, this crazy, you're going to burn, you're screwed, I'm good. It's just a totally different feel.
But same thing with those two friends politically, right? Because the one friend could have just very easily explained her perspective. This is why. What do you have? You know, what we should be doing. There's a beautiful thing that happens when you do end up detaching your identity from your beliefs and, you know, opinions. Then you have the freedom to change. You have the freedom to not have to be right. You have the freedom to, I mean, it's stressful having to be right. You know, like, here's one example. I remember when I first got into photography, I was so insecure. I was teaching, right? I started teaching like maybe 2 years into it. And I was teaching basics and things that I was learning, but I was so insecure with my own, I guess, position in the photography community, my own success. Like I wasn't super successful yet, but here I am like teaching, that I would try to be perfectly accurate and right. And I would fight. You know, if someone calls me out on something, I would argue. This is the way it's supposed to be. This is what I meant to do. This is 4 or 5 years in, I'm learning more and I'm actually gaining success, and I'm starting to see like I don't know everything. And there is a whole hell of a lot of things that I don't know. And isn't this called the Dunning-Kruger Effect? Isn't this the
No. Yeah.
Is it Dunning-Kruger? Basically the idea that the less you know of something, the more you think you know, and the more you understand, the less you know you don't know, right?
Yeah.
Like you kind of start to realize, oh my goodness, there's so much more out there. Maybe you can look it up. Anthony.
Yeah, it is.
It is the Dunning-Kruger Effect. So I'm sitting here arguing, and I would be up nights, you know, like fighting with people, arguing with people about being right and about, you know, this. And if I posted something that was wrong, I would think about it nonstop. And I got to go and say sorry. I got to go and apologize. I got to go and then I got to a place where I was like, this is how I do stuff. I don't know if it's the best way, but I like to do it this way. Take it for what it is. Hope it helps. If there's a better way, let me know. I don't know everything. And Judas Priest, man, I don't know why I still say that phrase, but Judas Priest, my being, my energy just settled. As soon as I got to a place where I was okay to be wrong, it's like, I'm good.
Yeah, you went from a survival place of being identified with your opinions and your worth to actually quality of life. And I'm open to perspectives. I'm willing to learn. You went from you evolved to a quality of life perspective.
Yeah.
Opinions is about quality of life. It's a beautiful thing.
It was no longer, I mean, it took so much energy to try to be this.
To try to be right and absolute is very draining.
And for a person who believes that my religion, my belief has to be correct, you have to work hard to stay away from any and everything that threatens that belief.
Absolutely. And then on the outside perspective, it's not motivating. It just looks scary and uncomfortable.
Yeah. From the person that's not a member who you're trying to convince, or who's not of this faith, or who's not of that political belief, or who's not, it doesn't matter. From the other perspective, it doesn't look convincing.
Exactly. You may think you're convincing, but it just looks scary.
Okay.
Scary, awkward, fearful.
Yeah. Man, I am in love with being wrong. That's the truth of it.
That's how you learn.
You know, honestly, like that perspective has changed so many different things in my life. You know, being okay with, even when I was younger and I was, you know, religious, being okay with, hey, it's okay if this isn't true. It's okay if, you know, it's not historical. It's okay if, do you know how many people that I know that every time a piece of bad news would come up about something, you know, Mormon history, right? Whether it was Mormons withheld the priesthood, this authority that they believe from God, this priesthood from black people during the civil rights movement. When people learn about that, do you know how many people stop going to church? Because, well, this came from God. This has to be 100% true. This has to be everything. My identity is this. And now I've discovered that these people in the religion made a mistake, that we're supposed to believe, that we're supposed to be guided by God. They made a mistake. And they would stop. And I'm like, people screw up, man. I'm good with that. You know, people screw up. And what's even more annoying, and honestly, what's more damaging to me, is when these official organizations don't take ownership over those mistakes.
Oh, agreed. Because they're preaching a certainty that there is no certainty on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what organization. The refusal of ownership, to me, is a sign of, again, weakness.
Oh, I agree.
If you can't say like, I'm wrong. There's a better way. There's, we make mistakes. What is that saying?
That it's life or death when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, bottom line. But I mean, a lot of like religion or anything in general is preaching a certainty that in truth there is no certainty about. We're never going to know until we actually die.
Yeah. So the bottom line and the next piece of this is to stop personalizing other people's opinions and beliefs, right?
Yeah, like you don't have to hold on to absolutes. There are no absolutes for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, except for gravity. Right?
Science, there's a good amount of
taxes,
science.
Taxes, right?
Taxes are pretty absolute.
Yeah.
You will go to jail.
But your opinions are going to change. Your perspectives are going to change. That's life. And so please, you shouldn't attach all your identity to those things.
How does a person stop personalizing other people's opinions, though?
Well, I think first they need to stop trying to defend their own opinions, right? So like you have to really check yourself and be accountable for, do I have absolutes in my life and do I really believe it, and do that inner exploration so you can be less defensive and start opening yourself up to different opinions.
Yeah, doesn't it come from that place of first inner security, inner peace?
Well, I think everyone's looking for security, and then the more scared you are, the more you're seeking security, and everything has to be secure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where extreme faith comes in.
There's places where that kind of certainty is actually dangerous.
Very dangerous.
I'm going to bring jiu-jitsu into this.
Do it.
Okay, so
Hamzat.
Chimaev.
Yes.
Is it Chimaev or Chimaev? It's Chimaev, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, Hamzat Chimaev. We love MMA, by the way, if you guys don't know this. And I actually practice jiu-jitsu, you might say religiously. But, the people that get hurt in jiu-jitsu, they're always, not always, most of the people that get hurt in jiu-jitsu are the people that come in as a white belt and they think they know everything. Oh, I've done Muay Thai before. I've done this before. I'm going to be good at this. I've even practiced jiu-jitsu before. I roll it like a blue belt level, but I'm only a white belt. They're the people that have something to prove, the people that can't be wrong. Now, what ends up happening? They get put in a compromising position. I've got their arm. This happened to me yesterday. I did this to this kid 3 times. This guy's about my age, right? About my size. And I put him in an arm bar. This is where his arm is extending across my chest. And we're rolling light. Like I like to roll light with all of our white belts and with most everybody, especially when they're new. Because I don't know what they're going to do and whatnot. So I just kind of take it easy. And I'm taking it easy. And I basically sweep him, get him into mount. This is where I'm on top. He pushes me off. And when he pushes out with his arm, I just grab it, swing the other leg up and over his head, and he's in an arm bar. And my coach is going, careful, careful, careful. And I know, like I'm there, but he still is worried because this guy's going hard. So I'm pulling on it and kind of extending back, and the dude's fighting. And I'm like, I'm just going to let him go. So I let him go. Coach is like, careful, careful. I let him go and I let him come out of it. Then he gets into another position. I have him in a Kimura, his arms up behind his back. Doesn't tap. I let it go. Get him in another position. It's called an Ezekiel choke, and I've got my fist right into his throat. Ooh. Doesn't tap, doesn't stop, because he can get through it, right? And I push, but I'm like, I'm going to let go. Then at the end of the roll, he goes, that was really good. You almost had me a few times. And I go, no, man, I had you. I just let you go. Because you're so fixated on what you know and being right that you're going to get hurt. Like with me, I'm good. It's okay. In the grand scheme of being good at jiu-jitsu, I am horrible. I'm an advanced white belt. I'm a lowly, like the totem pole goes up and up and up. And if you think you're right and that you're great at something, well, you're going to be in trouble because the next person that he's rolled with is not going to let go. And then he's going to snap his arm. And this is how almost every early injury in jiu-jitsu happens, is that someone comes in knowing what they know, unwilling to be wrong, and then they don't stop, and it actually ends up breaking a bone, getting choked out. They go unconscious, like a bajillion things. But this one scenario where I'm like, absolutism in this scenario is actually life or death. Like,
what happened when you said that to him? Did he say anything?
He was just like, oh, okay, man. And I don't think he believed it. So next time I roll with him, I'm actually going to put him on him.
So he was just in his own world, like, ooh, I escaped this. Instead of like, oh, you're letting go.
A lot of them do that. And they'll go and talk to the coach and be like, it's funny because he'll go to the coach afterwards. And this guy didn't do it, but another guy did. And he was like, man, I almost had Pye. And the coach laughs and he goes, Pye was being nice to you. He let you go. And the coach will say that to anybody that like, does the same thing as like, no, we've trained our people to be nice and to not break your arm, but you go into a different gym, it's not going to be that way. This is a combat sport, like it's not the place to bring your ego into the door. And it's funny because the people that understand this from a combat setting, they don't take those opinions and absolutes into other areas of their life. Mm-hmm. The ones that have trained and have been humbled day after day in a gym, whatever martial art you're doing, if you're doing a legitimate martial art and you know that humility, you don't bring those absolutes to any other aspect of your life.
Yeah, that just puts you in more harm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's being humble and open and constantly willing to learn. That's how you're going to grow. That actually keeps you safer.
Yeah. What happens to somebody that, this is just a what if, right? What if you are the person that's telling everybody to vaccinate your child? This is what you should be doing. And you're the one that's preaching it. And hundreds of thousands of people go and do this thing because you're one of all these voices that are, and I'm not saying that any of these things are right or wrong. What I'm saying is like, you believe so much in something that you convince all these people to do this thing. Then what happens when that thing turns out to be wrong?
Yeah, you're wrong. And your whole identity is tied to that. So you can't go back and change your opinion.
No.
Yeah, you got to live and die by that.
Yeah.
No, it's still true.
And you can take it across anything, right? I mean,
yeah, it just sets you up to live a very stressful life or death kind of life when you don't need to.
Yeah.
You don't need to suffer like that.
No, it's a very stressful living. People, yeah. I have so many friends who unfortunately have these beliefs in different areas, and you can see the emotional toll it takes on them, whether it's their religious beliefs or political beliefs or, what you should be doing with your life and how to live a correct life. And they spend so much time controlling who they're around, what they're around, defending their opinions, defending their ideas, and holding these positions. It's not a happy life.
But the funny thing is they look really unhappy and tired. And they look how happy I am.
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, man, I don't know if I want to do that, bro.
They continuously say that kind of stuff. And what's crazy is like, you go and you see people like picketing like gay marriage, right? The people that are standing on the other side with signs, you're going to hell. This is what's going to happen to you. And then they'll say things to you like, I'm doing this because I love you and I'm praying for you. And I'm sitting here thinking, there is no way in hell that you have actually prayed for any of these people. You've never sat down and actually said a prayer. These are just like platitudes. They're just words that we throw out. It's wild. It blows me away.
It's not from a loving place.
Yeah.
It's not even prayer. It's just convincing yourself that this is the truth.
Yeah. I saw one religious group that was picketing it was a funeral for someone who served in the military. And it was about how serving the military was evil or something related to this, but it was another like fundamentalist group that was going, and I'm just sitting here like, what is happening right now?
That's crazy. Well, wasn't like Fred Rogers picketed too by a religious group?
I don't.
Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
Oh, are you serious?
Mr. Rogers, he was being picketed.
For what?
I think like they were saying like he's promoting like gay rights or something because they were trying to question his sexuality, and then that his desire that you're a good person and that everyone is special goes against like the religious beliefs. Like it was a big deal.
Well, good for him for promoting gay rights.
Yeah. So that's just crazy.
It's a stressful life.
Yeah.
To be on that side of it, to be on that,
Opinions are not survival.
No.
Yeah.
No. And so when it comes to, friendships, when it comes to family members, when it comes to your romantic partner, I want to say that like, as you ratchet up the intensity, we talk about that a lot, as you bring up the intensity of a relationship, that, you do want to have values to be aligned. You want to make sure that you fundamentally, not that you belong to the same religion, but that your belief system, underlying support for why you do a certain thing, that those values align, right? But at the same time, like, I don't need all of my friends, I have a lot of casual friends, a lot of people that I like to hang out with, a lot of people that, are just, they're part of my life, but I don't need them to believe they're not my wife. When it comes to a partner, like in business or in romantic partner, we want that person to kind of be like us in terms of like we share the same values, right? But we don't need to have that with our friends and our family, not to that degree, not to where everything has to line up. And frankly, I think it's detrimental, right? Because when you're not, if you can't listen to other people's perspectives and people that have differing opinions, how do we grow?
It gets boring. It gets vanilla, and then it actually gets very, very dangerous because that's where the whole group think, and it just leads to extremism.
Yeah.
Which you don't want.
No.
Yeah. And the different opinions is a luxury thing.
Yeah.
And you don't put your life, like your whole identity of life or death on it.
The other side of this too is like understanding that this is why we have a two-party system, right? This is why we have this whole idea of conflict and of discussion and debate and back and forth. It's supposed to lead to a better place. When you get different ideas, different concepts and opinions, and you can discuss them in a civil manner, you get to better places. You get to better products from a business standpoint. You get to better services. You create better creative products, music. You don't remember what, did you ever watch Bohemian Rhapsody? Mm-hmm. The Queen?
Yeah.
Do you remember what Freddie Mercury said when he left the band?
No, I don't remember.
Freddie Mercury said, so he leaves the band and he comes back and he goes, he's apologizing to his bandmates, right? To the rest of the Queen band members. And he goes, I found a group of musicians who did everything that I wanted. They listened to everything that I said. And the music was horrible. It was uninspired. It was terrible. And he goes, I realized that this, what is it? The process of conflict, the challenging. Yes. The challenging.
Going back and forth.
That dynamic is what led to the music that we have created.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. This is why we have these things. And to put yourself in this fundamental absolutism slot and to take that away, super dangerous.
No, I agree. And then even just, with working with you, like you challenge a lot, you push a lot, that makes me grow. So I always appreciate that, offering different perspectives. Like it's just,
we go back and forth on that.
Yeah. It makes me do better.
Yeah.
Versus just staying in my lane and like, okay, this is just comfortable for me. But then in the end, I'm not getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. I guess the last piece then is, when do you walk away? You have this friendship or whatever it might be. I mean, first of all, when it's casual, like in my opinion, when it's a casual friendship, when it's an online, friendship, whatever it might be, when it's something casual, I don't know that there is ever a reason to walk away because you don't have to be there all the time, just go home. Don't stop talking to the person. Don't make the phone call. It doesn't feel like there needs to be this cutting off point, but in certain instances there are, in certain instances you have such differing viewpoints that you do need to close something off. But when is that?
Once again, I feel like once it gets to the point where it's dysfunctional and then it feels like life or death and you have to be right, that's when it's time to just cut it off. Mm-hmm. It's like the analogy you gave, just let go of the arm, man. Yeah. Just let it go.
Let go. Just tap.
Just let them believe what they want. Let this, dude.
Oh, you mean for the person that's grabbing the
arm?
Yeah,
once it gets to this extreme and you're like, okay, just bro, it's fine.
It's fine.
Believe what you want to believe. I'm cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, going back to that, nothing good is going to happen by me actually breaking this guy's arm.
You're not going to do him any favors. The more you invest in this person, the more you're just going to stress yourself out.
No, I can hold to my point and be like, dude, I'm going to show you and I'm going to prove this to you. But what happens? I end up seriously injuring somebody, they can't work, they can't provide for their family. They're going to take months off from the gym. I don't have someone to roll with. Same thing in an argument. What is the point of going and trying to prove something at a certain point, Yeah. Versus just saying, I'm good.
Yeah, it's seeing things in a bigger perspective. And if you can't do that at that point, or the other person isn't doing that, you need to walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually what I like to do is, again, the only time that I feel like I need to close something off is when it's a relationship that is, I want to say when there's not really a way that I can set proper boundaries. You know, like if someone is trying to repeatedly step over those boundary lines, that's when I have to close something off. But otherwise, it's just like, if they want to say what they want to say, I'm going to take a break for a month. Like, I don't need to talk to them this month. You know, we'll pick it up again a month later. I'll text you and see how you're doing.
Yeah, like the way the relationship isn't going to affect my life.
No.
Yeah, like it's cool. Like, okay, we'll just move on.
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll disagree on politics. You know, we'll chat again in a couple months, see how you're doing. Like,
yeah.
But if they're banging my door down and like,
that's it.
We gotta talk about this. We gotta handle this. If they're constantly stepping over those boundaries, that for me is when I know, okay, I gotta close out this relationship and be like, you know what, I'm good, man.
Yeah, you got to tighten it up because that's just affecting your quality of life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
How to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
We're done. All right, friends, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We hope you all enjoyed the episode. And if you guys are enjoying the podcast thus far, you can help us out in a couple different ways. One, obviously, you can subscribe, which we would love for you to be a regular listener. But the other way is you can hop onto Apple iTunes and leave us a review on 12-Week Relationships. And that helps others to know that, you know, Dr. Glen and I aren't just bullshitting and wasting your time and stuff, that we actually do something that's insightful. If you guys want to also submit questions and topics, so much of what we're discussing on the podcast is coming from you guys, from our listeners. So you can jump on a 12-Week Relationships on Instagram, send us a DM. We will keep any questions, anything that we discuss from, you know, past case studies. It's always going to be confidential unless you specifically say, you know, I'd like to be credited for this question or whatever. And outside of that, the only other thing that we have is if you hop on at 12weekrelationships.com, if you're looking for individual coaching or couples coaching, we have 12-week programs available where you can work one-on-one with Dr. Glen and go through the 12-week relationship program, which is, it's going to get you to a much better place. Not only personally, you're going to be more fulfilled, happier, but you're also going to be able to better connect with the people around you, including your loved ones and your most loved one, your spouse.
And yourself.
And yourself.
Yes.
That's an important one. Okay. That's it for us. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.